Welcome to On the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Fallon and Nick Stevens. On the Verge is part of Baltimore Sports and Life Radio. And we're here to bring you the latest minor league coverage. And today we're actually going to get to do something we haven't done in a while, which is talk about action that is going on the field. I'm joined by a guest who has seen a lot of baseball lately, and probably one of the few people in Birdland who have seen a lot of baseball. He is baseball scouting player development at Fusion Agents, as well as an FCL reporter for Prospects 1500, Utah Street Report, and he is also the podcast, Overtime Heroics Baseball, and he's also the co-host of the Florida Prospects Report. He is Eric Garfield. Eric, happy to have you back on the show.
Thank you, guys. I'm always with you on Mondays, so it's very appropriate that now I'm communicating with you on this Monday. Thanks again.
In the Star of today with John Mioli writing a piece about you. That was awesome. I was happy to see that. You were on 105.7 today. Talked to you last night. It's a great time to be Eric Garfield.
Right. It means it's minor league baseball season and people care to listen and talk about the Orioles. So all four of us can be very excited about that.
Absolutely.
Well, you're filling a real desire right now among Orioles fans for new baseball content, which we're not getting a lot of because of the lockout. How does it feel to actually be able to watch drills and today a scrimmage game firsthand?
I feel very lucky. It's kind of like a weird, unique privilege that I live near the stadium here. So kind of like my personality is to share the good things that happen to me or what I see. So it just feels very right and appropriate to film the improvement and share it with fans that have been waiting for some positive Orioles developments for a couple seasons. And some of them aren't sure or need some type of confirmation. So that's why I try to provide video also. You might not have to believe me or trust me or listen to me, but the results are there for you to look at and click and rewatch and slow-mo and all that kind of stuff. So it feels very good as an Orioles fan to have good news, and even better to share it with other people.
Yes. Let's talk about some of those players you've been watching, and let's start off with a big one right off the bat. That a lot of every Orioles fan, let's be honest, is very anxious to watch this year, and that's Heston Kjerstad. You're the first guy to get out there and watch him live right in front of your face. He is alive. He is real. He is swinging a baseball bat. Having watched him firsthand, what's been your impressions of him as a player so far?
Well, I guess you just made me think about this. The way that I can really see his athleticism is more in the outfield work and the acceleration and the short bursts and the body control when he extends to make a catch or slows down to avoid a wall or things like that. So that's kind of like a better indicator of how athletic he is and how much he can use his athleticism, which is like an indicator of health. So very, very pleasantly surprised to see him move. In fact, his sister was there with her, I believe it was her husband last week. So I got to ask her a couple things and talk about the family and his development. And there was one drill that he ran, and he just looked like a football player, a wide receiver, getting into the route, pivoting, and moving to where the ball was. So I asked her, I said, did he play football? Because that was a very natural move. And she said no, but she told me agility exercises that he'd been doing to kind of prepare himself for professional baseball. So, it's the little things that I'm learning about him and the details about his game. And I've said it before, he really is very much a foundational piece. Like the big names that we talk about, like Kobe and Gunnar and Adley, Heston Kjerstad, everybody will see when his game is on display, but he certainly belongs up there, to be mentioned with them in that tier.
How does he look physically? Does he look like he's missed 2 years, or do you think he put on some good weight pretty quickly back for this spring?
Okay, that's a great question, because I kind of paid a lot of attention to it around when he was drafted, and then there's that big delay, and now he's back sometimes in shorts and sometimes in uniform. I had definitely anticipated him looking like somebody who experienced a major health setback. And the first time I saw him, I was dead wrong. He looks like he's been not gaining a great deal of weight, but in no way out of shape, and very, I want to say, like the strong athletic frame that he exited from college. He still has that, and he's developing it. I guess the best way to tell how strong his legs are is how easy the ball pops off in BP. So when he gets warm, his legs power the swing and make it look very low effort. So, without being like up close, I'm just really estimating based on evidence, but looks very, very, very top athletic shape.
That's great to hear. And I know you haven't seen as much of the pitchers yet so far at camp. It's been mostly, batting practice, fielding drills. But tell us what you can about what you've been able to glean from the pitchers. I know you saw Gene Pinto, our favorite, Zach Peak, a couple other guys. What do you think about them so far?
Well, I've seen Grayson. I've seen Carter Ballmer. I've seen Zach Peak, including today. I actually missed Grayson today. He pitched, but I wasn't there. I'm sorry. I just, that's a lot to see. But it's very early in their build up to regular usage. So I'm seeing signs of that. But in a 20 pitch live BP session, if 12 or 13 of those are strikes that are in the right place and difficult to make solid contact with, it seems like the traditional pitchers being ahead of the hitters a little bit. And with pitchers like the class that you've mentioned, some of these guys are expected to have outstanding seasons this year. It's good to see them off to a good start as opposed to like a middling or less than average start.
So speaking of Carter Ballmer, you had a chance to interview him in a story for Utah Street Report back in the fall. And because, he has not pitched since being drafted in 2020 with Tommy John surgery, a lot of Orioles fans still really aren't that familiar with him as a person or as a player. So just kind of give us some background, a little bit on what he's like. And then looking at the on-field side of this, what are your expectations for him now that he's healthy and throwing again?
Okay, like personality-wise, I would say he actually came down to the seats during the Rookie League game. That's where I met him, like talking to him during a game. And he seems like very, very pro pitcher. We were talking like about battles between pitchers and hitters. And every single time he was like, well, the pitcher should be able to do that. The pitcher should be able to dictate that. So definitely he's playing the right position for him. But that was like sitting in the stands and observing his teammates. On the field, he's a lot more serious and a lot more focused and a lot like brings the attitude of like, I'm ready to get to work and I'm ready to take care of business, like a top of the rotation pitcher type of mentality. Where would I expect him to start? I guess just because of his lack of experience, not really like his lack of age, but his lack of experience against other hitters, I might expect him to begin the season in Sarasota in front of me at the Rookie League, but with an eye on probably advancing quickly. Guys with his draft profile and other organizations usually show up in the rookie leagues, but they end up in low A by the end of the year.
2020 draft looking better and better.
Oh yeah, it's a great one, obviously.
Moving ahead to the 2021 draft class, over the offseason, we've kind of been driving the John Rhodes as breakout candidate hype train over here. You've had a chance to see him over the last few weeks, and what are your impressions of him?
Well, he is really strong. It's hard to tell. Like we talked about Kerstead, you kind of have to go like by the results. I don't have the data, but he hit a 600-foot home run, and he's not like an overwhelmingly large person. So right there, the wind was like not in his favor. He hit it over a high net and then over a street. So I guess like my first impressions of him are he really can use his torque to produce positive baseball outcomes swinging. But then I watch him in drills a lot too. And he's very fast on his feet, very athletic. And as far as they do it like a specific drill to catch it at the warning track and kind of stop your momentum, he really just has like such a natural and aesthetically pleasing stop. So again, more details of a really skilled player, very strong, loud contact, far contact, and athleticism in the field. So I remember, I think when you guys drafted your squads with Connor last week, you were talking about like infield or outfield for Rhodes, and I'm just seeing like such a strong outfield foundation of skills. I really, really get a lot out of watching these guys go through their drills.
So in other words, choo choo.
right. Starting now.
Yeah, I love it. I still can't pinpoint exactly what it is, but something in those short, small sample sizes at Delmarva last year is just he's piqued my interest pretty high there. So I'm excited to see what we can do across his first full season. But looking at some other guys, and you're talking about, you get to sit there and watch these drills individually. And I know you pay a lot of attention to a lot of those small drills and see a lot of those small details that more casual fans are going to miss out on. So let's talk about Jordan Westberg and Gunnar Henderson. And there's so many questions about their defense, especially playing defense at shortstop. What are you seeing with these two guys in their drills at that position and in the infield? And who do you give the edge to right now based on the last year or so in this kind of friendly competition, this friendly rivalry that the two of them have as a future starting shortstop in the major leagues?
I have to say, as much as I've liked Gunnar and watched his development all the way from the beginning, and this is really kind of like my first time seeing Westberg in person and what he brings to the practice environment, and therefore like expected into the game environment. He really is outstandingly consistent at every single movement. Right? There's no runs, no drips, no errors. He's smooth with his feet. He's smooth sweeping across the bag. You can just put him at third in a drill, and he can turn and pivot like a third baseman. So I guess I would say, like, in terms of who does the best work in the shortstop hole, I would say that's Gunnar. And a little bit quicker transfer, and the throws are similar. So Gunnar does better work in the shortstop hole, but I don't know, because I haven't seen about Gunnar's level of versatility. Can he play second? Can he play third? And I have seen that from Westberg in limited reps. It's such a neat thing to see this competition like rep to rep from both of those guys. And it's, it's something that a lot of fans don't get to see. So I try to do the best to show like what's actually happening right in front of me, because it is significant, and people like us, we really care about it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good to hear. And I'm a little nervous to ask you about this, but I think it will lead to an interesting story that I enjoyed when I was on with you last night. From what you've seen, can Kobe Mayo stick at third base?
Why? I guess. Why slow-mo like every single drill he does, and I'm watching it for like with the criticism that other people have in mind, and they're citing his lack of foot speed or his lack of foot quickness, and I'm filming his elite foot speed and his elite quickness just on a frame that is 6'5" today. So I would say his hands and his feet present the best case for him staying at third base long term. When he starts to make mistakes or starts to have poor footwork or poor shuffling skills or can't guard the corner, these are things that a third baseman needs to do, and he does exquisitely well. So I'm gonna vote for him as a third baseman until he proves otherwise or starts making a lot of mistakes, and we'll all see that. But I would not expect that anytime soon. He's a very, very good fielder. He understands the third baseman's job, and yeah, he can hit a little bit too.
He can handle fans yelling at him, when are you going to be in the outfield, and handle it with maturity.
Well, yeah, yesterday or a couple days ago, he walked over, and there's a couple fans like in the right field corner. We're outside the fence, and a lady had actually asked him, I couldn't even believe it, just like out of nowhere. Are you a outfielder or a third baseman? And he just gave the very mature answer about the coaches tell me to go to third, so I'm a third baseman until they tell me otherwise. But I was like, something smart came out of the side of my mouth.
What?
So, a listener question here from Vivek: do you think Mayo's arm itself makes him enough to be average at third if the footwork were to be an issue?
Well, hi Vivek, by the way. Vivek helps me a lot with guys that I can't see or can't tell who they are at camp. Sometimes I send him the pictures and he gets it very quick. So thanks for that. But I mean, I would think that an arm that can throw it across the diamond, remember he's tall, so it's not exactly the same distance as someone who's not as tall, who can throw it like 91 or 92 miles across the diamond to get an out. Again, that's a weapon. You need to get those outs. So I want him protecting stats and protecting pitchers and protecting leads. So again, another part of his game that just the more you watch him, the more it seems tailor-made to protect that corner.
Yeah, if Michael Franco can stand over there with the decent arm, Kobe Mayo will be fine.
Fair comp, Bob.
Love it. I said before in an episode, I thought it was kind of a bold take at the time. There maybe close to the end of last season that I call Kobe Mayo a very special prospect in this system, and it is becoming more and more true, I think. And luckily, national outlets are finally seeing this as well, reflecting that in their national rankings. But on the flip side of that, I think anyone that you've noticed, you could say struggling, but it's early in camp. It's February. It's early March. Is there anyone you see out there in the field or in the batting cage that when you watch, you think it's going to come along maybe a little bit later for them right now?
I am immensely biased towards this organization and the young population of players, but I would have no problem saying that. This is a limited camp and it's kind of the same population. And I'm actually really glad you asked, because it doesn't seem like this is a kind of environment where a guy is going to be low for a long time or miss a day or get out of rhythm. And that's the rising tide aspect of this group being together. So I haven't seen one guy have like more than 5 bad swings in a cage, and then he stepped out, took a deep breath, and hit 2 home runs. And that was Creed. He's 18. So guys are coming along so well. And man, I'm really trying to think. There's anybody who like has booted a couple grounders. I really, the onboarding program for these players, it looks like it's working so much that the results are there, and the standard has been raised, and the players at this camp are meeting it every single day.
Nice. What do you see when you mentioned Creed there, a couple of bad hacks, but kind of takes himself out of there, takes a deep breath and gets back in the box? Do you see a lot of, if guys tend to be struggling a little bit during a drill, do you see coaches immediately jump in? Or is it a lot of that these players are kind of stepping out, correcting it themselves and coming back in? And maybe that conversation is happening later on with the players?
I'll say a little bit of both. There's drills where there's coaches like right next to the guys, and they'll like stand and show their body. Your posture needs to be like this, or your release needs to be like this. You need to start, and your pre-pitch foundation needs to be like that. Sometimes it'll be like after the reps are over and the guys are walking off the field, I can see a coach like put his arm around someone and what they're demonstrating. But in the cage, it's really them and the music and the rhythm. So it was pretty cool to see Creed just step out, realize, all right, I'm a little off, my timing's off. Let's just get it right between the ears, step in, and get right back down to business. And the results came within a second. Seeing him and seeing his early development has been like really one of the best things about this camp. He is going to be an amazing left-handed slugger very, very, very soon. I can see the coaches being aggressive to get the best out of him and start his track really going in an upward direction. Very, very.
You have to really be looking forward to this summer when he and Samuel Basayo are down in the FCL.
Quite a catching lineup.
And who has them both on his team and locked on? I don't know. But how much can you tell from drills versus game action? And in your experience, does the former typically translate to the latter when it comes to this stuff?
The way the Orioles do it, they don't waste drills. They don't waste a rep. It might look somewhat unconventional, like when they take out football and are throwing it to different parts of the field. But I have a feeling when we watch Kyle Stowers run down long fly balls by taking the perfect route to their landing spot, that'll be the skill from the drill getting into the game. So I would say the not wasting practice aspect of what I'm seeing, I would expect to translate directly into positive results. I mean, we have they have the number one system, so something about what they practice and what they teach is working. It's not just talent alone; it's the execution and the results.
Love it. I that reminds me when we had Lamar Sparks on, and he said the same thing. There's nothing wasted. They get in, they get the most out of you in short sprints, short drills, and I absolutely love that. This kind of made me think of a different question though, and talking about outfielders and drill work, and someone you've posted a couple of videos on. I'm interested in your take on this guy. Where would you rank Matt Blood among the outfielders in this system?
Ooh. Well, I even said something to him the other day. A group came out from the field, came back from the field, and Adam Hall was one of them, and he had just run down like 3 very, very difficult fly balls in batting practice. And then Blood took over for him, and I said something about, are you going to have to show everybody how it's done? And I was joking, but then he made like 3 very difficult catches. So I would say he's in the second tier, maybe not the top tier, but he's actually better at quarterback than he is at center field. With quarterback, I would put him with Hannafy and Bradish very much in the top tier. His spin and the arc on the football are really near perfect time after time after time. So 2-sport athlete and a good one. Love it.
It's interesting. I watched Hannafy on the high school football field a lot, but as a receiver, and his older brother was throwing him the passes. So I guess he learned something from his brother there. But going back to the players, and you talked about Kjerstad's weight there and what he's looking like physically. Who else, from your vantage point, who else has really stood out to you in terms of body transformations? Anyone else you look at and you say he hit the weight room within the last year over the offseason?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. There's one, and I had thought it, but I also got confirmation of Cowser. When Cowser got drafted, I'm not going to say he was skinny, but he appeared to have a slenderer frame in like a baseball uniform, and he's put on good weight from the hips up, and I'd say about like 15 to 18 pounds of it. And again, you watch and listen to the results. His line drives sometimes end up on the other side of the fence. So, we're talking about like efficiency and body changes and things working fast. So he wasn't drafted that long ago. He's a person that's put on good weight and is using it. Another one, a show favorite for all the right reasons, looking, I don't want to say thick, but with more muscle from head to toe, is Joey Ortiz. And this is someone that I'm not that close to. He's in the infield or, tracking back to the fringe of the outfield. So this is kind of like muscle that I can see from his line drive and also kind of like through his shirt. So he's looking a little bit bigger also. But you have to think when he rehabbed, he probably lifted also.
Love to hear that about Cowser. I mean, that's the one thing, right? The Orioles drafted him knowing if he can have this power, he can be a star player, and they immediately get set working on that. I love that about what they're doing right now.
He also seems to be very outgoing and very so upbeat and bringing he jokes on every rep. He screams. I know the guys' nicknames because I hear him call everybody by their nickname. So he really is that very upbeat, positive personality guy. Even when he messes up, he's smiling. So he really brings a lot to the camp, and that's that's another thing that I expect to like translate to leadership during the season. What a great draft pick.
Yeah, that is awesome. Someone predicted that. I don't know who.
I'll figure it out.
When we did our top 50 a couple months ago, we had a few listeners ask us why we didn't include Moises Ramirez after his excellent season in the FCL last year. I know you're pretty high on him. So what do you think we should be watching for with him this season?
Okay. Great question again. I would expect I'm probably not going to get to watch him in Sarasota. I would expect him to be at Loa at Delmarva, but he's a guy who really takes to coaching very well. Whatever the instructors were telling him, he would take that right into the game and try to do it or execute it. For Moises, he's very strong. He's built, a little bit stronger and more muscle and a little thicker body than people his age. It doesn't hinder or deter his movements, but what I would focus on paying attention to him is, do the strikeouts and the walks have that nice balance for someone in early development? Because it seemed at times he would try to get aggressive with swinging and he would not select the right pitches. Even though he had a pretty good stat line for a rookie league season, I thought that he left a couple hits out there by swinging at the wrong pitches before his opportunity. So if I'm seeing that, I guarantee you instructors are seeing that too. So maybe just pay like a lot of attention to the on-base aspect of his swing decisions.
We know that's a big priority in the farm system too. So that I would imagine is going to be something they work with him a lot with at Delmarva this year.
Right, an organizational philosophy, so it's going to reach everybody. I hope that it reaches him at this stage of his development because he can really do a lot with contact.
Love it. I'm just excited. We finally get to watch up close and personal all of these young international stars coming up through the system. It's going to be one of the biggest storylines of 2022. But last year, speaking of Matt Blood again, he told us all to watch out for Kyle Bradish and Joey Ortiz, and they delivered, I think, in pretty big ways. Now today, we hear that he's saying watch out for Adam Hall in 2022. And we've all been pretty down on Hall for a while now. Last season, we know there were injuries, which contributed to a lot of his struggles. But what have you seen from Adam Hall in Sarasota that can lift our spirits up a little bit?
I'm so glad you asked because I had a specific question with my friend Alan, who is with me at the stadiums watching with binoculars, so he can see even more than I can see. Today, we're trying to figure out who is who in the new practice jerseys. And a center fielder makes a play. A center fielder makes another play. A center fielder strives to a spot where we didn't think he could get to and made a great snag. It was Adam Hall. He's been doing that in the outfield, every drill, every time, showing outstanding acceleration. He also beat out a close play, accelerating down the line for a hit today. Then when he goes into second, he looks almost as good. Double plays, quick turn, outstanding electric transfer, like Joey Ortiz type transfer. So I would say that I was kind of like with you guys, like, are we going to see him reach another stage in his development? And it's just a reminder that sometimes these things don't happen when we want them or when we expect them. But I said to Alan, can you believe how fast this guy's feet are? Did you even think that? And he said, I knew he was fast, but not this fast. So it certainly makes sense for Matt Blood to say that. He knows much more than I do, but I'm seeing like a little bit of resurgence in his all-around baseball speed. So he is a speed player. So maybe that means something for what this season will have for him.
I would love for him to prove us wrong. That would be amazing.
Me too.
Yeah.
Speaking of infielders and Matt Blood was on 105.7 today, and he also mentioned Cesar Prieto as a player to watch and said that Joey Ortiz looks good in the box. Do you agree with that?
It's hard to tell exactly who is who, but I have seen Prieto, and I would say like the profile that we expect when he gets warm, he hits line line drives over the second base hole, not the hardest in the organization, but well placed, well barreled, time after time after time after time. He can turn on inside pitches really well for someone like with his lack of size. So the fact that we expect him to be a hitter, and all of the things that he's shown in the cage show he's a contact-based hitter. I expect maybe not a Connor Norby high average, but an average that we'd all like and be very satisfied with.
Taron Vavra-esque.
Perhaps. Okay, that's maybe a better comp.
And how about Joey Ortiz? Does he look fully healthy coming back from his surgery? Does he look like he did in the beginning of last year?
Yeah. Okay. This is another thing about that I try to discuss with about the Orioles. Like injuries like his used to derail development or stall development, and now remember Kobe was hurt his first year, and Carter looks great, and I expect Elio Prado to have a big year. Like now, guys come back from injury with a just as hungry approach and hit the ground running. I've watched Ortiz in individual drills before he was like with the team, and I did slow-mos of his footwork and his transfer. The only word that comes to mind, he looks electric. He looks totally electric. So for what you're asking, like, does that mean he's going to be right back on track? I would say overwhelmingly, I expect yes.
Very cool. Absolutely. Yeah, we're huge fans of him over here, as I know you are as well. And, come June, all right, let's get in your mindset. It's June, FCL season's about to get started. Who are you most excited to watch play every day in and day out for the Orioles?
Okay, well, honestly, I'm just as excited for the coaches because I know their baseball philosophies and how they like to teach, and I know the players are going to benefit so much from them, which means we benefit. But really, I want to see Michael Hernandez, and I have a feeling that I will, and I'll be lucky enough to be able to film it and share it. But I watched him at hitting camp very, very briefly, move a little bit in the dirt, and he just looks like when he reaches the stages of progression, he's just going to resemble a major league shortstop right away. So I kind of, those type of skills or skill sets really stand out in the rookie league. So if he's one of those players that other organizations kind of bring, it really would represent a lot of excitement for us. So I would say other than Creed having like a full campaign, Michael Hernandez is the one that I want to see the most.
We have some listener questions we're going to get to in a minute, but before we do, I want to backtrack for a moment because you mentioned Elio Prado. This is a player we did not get to see last year because of an injury, but that we're all pretty excited about. You had a chance to watch Prado a little bit in 2019, correct? After the Andrew Kastner trade?
Very little, right.
So just from what you saw, what kind of player is he? And, is this someone you're expecting to see a little bit this summer in Sarasota?
Yes, I am expecting to see him in Sarasota. I definitely am, I don't know, I guess happy or proud of him for, passing his initial physical and being able to be in the practicing and playing population. A lot of times, fans don't really know how much of a challenge it is just to get to step one in some cases. So I really feel very good about his, the very beginning. And now he can finally start it and have a healthy approach. But I guess not a big guy, but somebody whose athleticism means a little more strength than you would expect when you look at him. Good ball tracker, good accelerator to where the ball is going to be. But I think offense is going to make his profile more than defense. And I'd expect very young for him to be like a slap hitter. But as he starts to develop, I think power is going to come pretty soon. So, I'm so glad that he's we traded for him a really long time ago. And the other guy in the trade, Noberth Romero, is already on track and had a really good rookie league season. and played a lot and was a dependable infielder. So I guess Prado missed out on that part, but I'm not cautiously optimistic that he's gonna have a good 2022. Very confident player, extremely confident player.
So we'll go to our first listener question here from Vivek. From Michael Hernandez, do you buy the A-Rod Manny Machado body comp?
Okay, absolutely yes. Yeah. He's tall. He's long-limbed. He looks like his build is more tall baseball player than maybe like basketball player with like his leg length and his hips. So I think those type of physical comparisons are very apt, Vivek. And as great as those two players are, I don't think it's crazy to say that he could physically resemble and move like them at their peaks, which is, A-Rod, one of the best players I've ever seen.
You heard it here first. Michael Hernandez, Hall of Fame 2047 or whatever.
Okay, I'll be there. We'll be there.
Question here from Adit. In what respect does Kobe remind you of Chris Bryant or Anthony Rizzo the most?
Okay. I guess the physical frame is, I think his height and weight are identical to Chris Bryant. So there, he looks like him in stature. I would say when I watch Rizzo, I don't watch a ton of Major League Baseball, but I have watched Rizzo and I watched him develop. He was always a great bat speed player. So he was able to make adjustments in pitch, but not slow down the bat because of it. So I really think offensively, that's Kobe's best skill. He can hit a bad pitch 480 feet. So I guess, these are slugger capabilities. So I guess like bat speed and adjustments with bat speed are how like Rizzo and Kobe can be compared to each other. And it's ironic because they exercise and work out with each other in the same gym. So they're actually extremely close.
We're just going to have you on for like another hour where you just talk about Kobe Mayo for the rest of the show.
Okay, good.
Another question here from David Adams. Question from David Adams in the Patreon group. He wants to know, based only on what you've seen this spring, would you rank Kjerstad or Cowser higher?
That is a good question. I'm going to say defensively, they both, man, that's 50-50. Offensively, Kjerstad seems a little more consistent with contact. Cowser seems like his line drives travel higher and further. So I'm going to go 52-48 for Cowser. But really, how good is it to have those expected star players like so close to each other where I really can't decide who's better, but even knowing like all the details of them. So they're really close, and that's so great for all of us.
Yeah. It seems like every national list, you see Kjerstad's like falling out of the top 100, and he's falling down Orioles prospect list. And now he hasn't even played a game though.
Dynasty people pick him up as a sleeper.
There you go. Fantasy advice here on the show as well. I think Kjerstad might be the one prospect I am most excited to watch this year because I hope he proves a lot of people wrong. And those evaluations and your observations you've had of spring, I think people listening should be super excited about Kjerstad in 2022.
I don't want to I'm sorry. I don't want to like create any fake hype. That's certainly not like the reason that I do anything that I do. But I call it like I see it. And this guy is a player that's, I remember way back when saying about Gunnar, this guy's really good. Wait till everybody sees him. They're going to be charged up. I feel very, very, very similarly about Kjerstad. So I don't think I'm building unnecessary hype. And, I hope he gets to an affiliate and starts kicking ass.
Absolutely. And I completely agree. Just watching the videos you're posting, I mean, it's seeing is believing. It's not just you talking it out. You can watch him. He's fluid out there. He looks strong. And I know there are definitely people, and they know who they are on the Baltimore Sports and Life message board who have pretty much written him off and are almost seem to be rooting against him. And I just hope he comes out and is just like lights out to start the year and can get right back on track. We have another question from Yoni, who would like to know, what coach have you seen be the most vocal with his instruction?
Oh my God, that's the easiest one. That's so easy. That's former On the Verge guest, that Tim DeJohn, who's kind of like running the practice and organizing everything. You know, I don't know if you can tell, like there's lawnmowers all the time, or there's traffic, people honking their horns. It's like near an intersection, so it's kind of like a loud environment even when it's quiet. But there's no noise in Sarasota that I cannot hear his voice over, and it's been like that since from the very beginning. So it's definitely him, but I don't want to like make it seem like he's just like a screamer or a purposeless like yeller, because a lot of the improvement that I've seen from players I can directly attribute to their relationship with him and his emphasis on fundamentals and drills. He really is a true grounders and infield expert. So for that, most of the coaches are actually kind of quiet. He is not quiet. Great question.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Tim. He was great on the show.
Right, I totally agree.
So Sim can contribute with this question. How many minor league players are in this phase of camp? All of them. Now, we could cross off anyone that's on the 40-man, obviously, but beyond that, how many are down there?
I think the mini camp, I'm going to say it had between 22 and 26, something like that. So they could kind of keep the groups, even if they needed to divide for drills or spread out BPs. So that population over the last couple of days, like mini camp has found its way to ending, and real spring training has started. So some pitchers joined that population, and some of the catchers that were there for mini camp obviously were there to catch pens. So now it's almost like between now and I guess Wednesday, it's really going to be like everyone on the entire depth chart. So probably like 150 to 200 guys. Talk about memorizing the jerseys getting tough.
Yeah.
We have a question here that is off topic, but that our listener Dan felt was important, and we thought it was important too. So we're including it in this show. He picked up on the tidbit in your the piece you were featured in John Muelli's newsletter, Maximizing Playoff Odds, about you bringing snowballs to Sarasota. Right. And Dan wants to know, after introducing them, did Floridians appreciate the awesomeness of egg custard snowballs?
Okay. Again, it's so crazy that you asked that. Yes, there's actually been a successful franchise that started, and they're not from Maryland, but they sell egg custard, and it's their best seller because they were customers of mine. So the business doesn't exist anymore, but I actually had like posters of egg custard and why it was so important. So that attempt at educating Sarasotans definitely worked. And John in the article mentioned, I never even think about this. There was a law against selling snowballs and using like ice cream trucks in Sarasota. So I challenged and changed that law. So that's one of the reasons that this franchise exists and is able to thrive, is because that outdated policy is no longer. So definitely, I thought you were going to ask about my dog, but you know, beating the Sarasota City Commission, I'm telling you, it felt like winning a World Series. It was so much fun.
That is so cool. And even better than egg custard is old-fashioned egg custard. Add a little bit of the cream to it. You do that?
Well, yeah, we had marshmallow. They like the people of Sarasota like marshmallow more than they like egg custard.
Oh, okay.
As the non-Marylander here, I feel out of place. I've never had one. Now I got to go up to Maryland and try one. Vivek has another question here. He wants to know, in all of your time as an Italian evaluator and scout down there in Sarasota, watching minor leaguers develop, who's been a one prospect or two throughout the years that you were rightfully high on, while the rest of the industry and a lot of your peers were a little bit lower on? It could be Orioles or non-Orioles, guys.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely start with Daryl Hernandez for sure. I remember when I tried to get a job with different websites, I had got in touch with somebody, and they were maybe going to hire me to pay attention to practice. And when I started talking to them about what I saw with Darryl, they started to have a lot more faith in me. I told them about his posture, about his focus, about how slumps and streaks didn't get him down. He stayed the same guy. He could go 0 for 4, but the fifth at bat, he could have an RBI double. So he's somebody that I always had faith in would be like a leader type of personality, as well as a very slick fielding infielder. Now coming back to camp and watching that happen, I feel validated a little, but I really feel even more proud because he's helping our organization and he's helping a lot of other players get better. And he is a leader. He's not loud and outgoing, but a lot of like times in an athletic or practice environment, you have a guy that can really like lead by example. And he's somebody that I just always thought would be in a bigger major role. So watching it happen is just such a positive part of what I see. And work, I guess, like hand in hand, what is Gunnar. And I like from the very beginning, those two, I even like felt compelled to write about it. You know, they're just a good infield pair that have great chemistry. So like I said before, when I saw Gunnar play and I saw him execute, I was just like, man, Oriole fans are going to go crazy when they see this guy. And, you know, it's not like me being like, I told you so, but I really am very, very happy that those are two guys that we've got to watch, like, or I've got to watch from the very beginning, like really like their very first days into what they are now, because they're just great players. I'm so happy to see them thriving and being part of a real competition. So them two for sure.
And speaking of Darryl Hernandez, I've mentioned that, you know, he's a guy that I could see pulling a Joey Ortiz, where if he fills out a little bit, add some good weight, some good muscle, that he could really kind of, you know, pop at least, you know, in the next year or two. And what do you think coming into camp? Is he showing any more of that added muscle or weight and maybe hitting for a little more power in batting practice?
Absolutely, especially in his shoulders and biceps. He has the identical swing that he had for the rookie league. There have not been that much adjustments. I don't know how like aesthetically pleasing it is. Some people would be like it's not best timing, or his front foot lift is a little big. The explosive action when the ball's in the hitting zone is exactly the same. And yeah, he hit one over the pond beyond the fence at one of the fields too. So into the wind, I'm going to say between 435 and 450 up into the air. So and Oppo. So that's a sign of a much stronger player. I don't know if the 2019 version of him was physically capable of that, but now he is. And again, this is BP, so this is no velocity. So he's just sending it out with his torque. So yeah, I think that's a very reasonable thing. And also, you know, from interacting with him and communicating with him, he is a serious exercise and serious like overall health person. So I would say, Bob, I would expect that happen as grows to be and stronger than he is now.
Love it. All right. Vivek has another question here. Assuming there's a Rule 5 draft, who is one player you would be sad to see plucked from the Orioles system? And do you think it might even be better if the Rule 5 draft was canceled for the Orioles?
I think he's frozen. I think he's dropped.
That's
A lot
all
of
right.
good insight from Eric so far. We'll give him a minute here to try to get back on. This Rule 5 question is an interesting one because there were reports between shows that some MLB executives want the Major League Rule 5 draft to be canceled in light of the ongoing lockout. So Eric has now rejoined us. Eric, did you get the question from Bob before your signal dropped?
I did not. I just heard him talk. I didn't know what it was.
All right. Vivek had another question.
Okay.
Assuming there's a Rule 5 draft, who is one player you'd be sad to see plucked from the Orioles system? And I added, do you think it might even be better for the Orioles to not have a Rule 5 draft and not risk losing anyone?
Okay, that's the easiest question. The one that I think would be the worst, and I talk about this all the time with anyone that would ask, I do not want to see this person in a Cubs or Reds or Diamondbacks uniform or Pirates. That's Nick Vespi. I think he's, just like we talked about, Kobe is providing the things we need for like a third baseman. I don't think that Nick Vespi is a minor league pitcher. I think he's a major league pitcher and needs to test himself against the best. The Orioles kind of need a lefty with his type of movement patterns late in the game. So it would most definitely be him. I would be upset if I saw like the final stages of his development into a good major league player on another team. And I think a lot of people would also. I guess the second part of the question, I feel pretty strongly that as much as it would be in the organization's advantage to use that number 1 pick in the Rule 5, I am a development fan, so I'm for the org guys that have been with our coaches and been with our instructors and have started to buy in more than a talented, maybe reliever, maybe starter from another organization. And you made a great point last night when we kind of were talking about the same thing. Like, who is someone that the Orioles have Rule 5 and just turned into a total A+ that's really like helping and thriving so much. So you're really kind of limited no matter who you select. And I feel like with guys that the Orioles have developed themselves, the limits are a little higher and the expectations can be higher too. So I do not, I do not want to have the Rule 5 draft, and I do not want to lose Nick Vespi.
This is where you and Vivek are going to butt heads. He's the Rule 5 guy.
That's all right. That's all right. I actually have discussed it with him too, and it's like a logical discussion. And he understands my side, and I understand his side, so we can talk like adults, which is crazy.
Nice. I saw this question on the outline, and so I didn't add another one because I knew you were going to answer Nick Vespi to this question, and I was excited to see what you're going to say.
Unpredictable.
That's good because I have loved Vespi as well. I love that they put him in the bullpen and he's taken off the last 2 years. And his Arizona Fall League performance, I think Jonathan Mayo was all over it. This is a guy that's going to get picked. This is a guy who's going to get picked both times. And he better and better both times he was on national TV. So I kind of lean towards Eric there. I want to keep Nick Vespi.
You'd be sad if he was a good pitcher on the Reds. How frustrating would that be? Like, the Orioles bullpen needs a good lefty who makes the ball move. Don't do it. I don't. Rule 5 very much.
I don't want to go through what I went through last year with Zach Pop. That hurt me for a long time, and I don't want to.
All right, this would hurt more. I think this would hurt more.
Yeah, and I watched Zach Pop come out of the bullpen at Camden Yards last year at a game in person in a Marlins uniform. That was not a great feeling.
I want for all of us to avoid that. Totally. I'm sorry that you had to experience that, but I think collectively, like we like Nick Vespi, so we kind of want to see him come to fruition and show his skills in our colors, and I think that's very logical.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I hope that Vespi makes his debut in Baltimore here soon.
Interestingly enough, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it seems like today he was in the scrimmage. He was the final pitcher. And a couple days ago, after Grayson pitched, Nick pitched, and then the scrimmage was also over. So we're getting maybe little indicators that it might just be like closer.
Very interesting, yeah.
It is interesting. So our last listener question here comes from David Adams, which is, which prospects as an Orioles fan are you most excited to see make it to Baltimore? And he notes that he's not asking you as an evaluator who your top prospect is, but as a fan who you're the most excited to see.
Okay. I would say that's guys that have showed that, like, earned their stripes and earned their spots. Like, I guess someone that I expect to be there and to face adversity, handle adversity, and pass adversity, because I've seen that, is the guy who hit the home run today, Robert Newstrom, who's a lefty who hit the home run, the 480-foot home run in Hartford. Today, he hit one to me. That was in right field. Today, he hit one to me straight left. So versatile results, but I just remember thinking when I saw him first in the outfield group a couple years ago, like, he throws it hard from the outfield. You know, the arm will play. And then I'm seeing, like, little things. The pivot will play. The acceleration to the grounder, the scoop will play. So all these things coming together kind of make me think, like, he has earned that spot in the actual major league outfield competition. Then I come to camp and I see him performing well in drills with guys that are earlier in their development than him. He really kind of stands out like that vet who deserves the bump up. So that's really a good question and news.
Last minute question from Bob in Baltimore. What was it like to watch Adley Rutschman just crank a home run to the right field today?
All right, I'll tell a good story. I was recording and my friend was like standing above me and I saw the contact and I'm staying on the hitter and I can't say anything, but I'm looking up at him. He has the binoculars, so I want to make sure that he can get the last name. And he's just looking at me. He's not looking in the binoculars. And when he crosses the plate and I hit record, I'm like, Alan, I couldn't see who it was. He's like, trust me, I saw who it was before he swung. It was Rutschman. And I started celebrating in the staircase. I was jumping up and down. So, you know, extremely exciting, over the top exciting. You know, this is what we want our number one pick to do. And it looks like these are the results. So he's primed to do it. Also, another neat thing, another catcher who's just hitting doubles and homers out today and in batting practice is Nottingham. Nottingham is a very powerful hitter. He's probably like the largest frame in this camp now. So the whoever is the catcher for the Orioles or the collective catching group might be a lot more powerful than people think. How positive is that?
Could be a nice little tandem there.
You mean more powerful than Francisco?
You know, I was looking at old prospect lists from a couple years ago, and he was very high on one. So yeah, Zach, he's probably going to be better than Francisco. We're hoping. Good question.
Great stuff.
Quick update here for the On the Verge guest appearance leaderboard. Eric is now tied for second all time with 2 appearances with Connor Newcomb and John Mioli. However, he's still 5 episodes behind the leader, Dr. Stephen Loftus. So a wide gap between 1 and 2 remains, but we now have a new person tied for the second most guest appearances.
2 is my lucky number. I don't do the draft, so I imagine that Loftus is coming on very soon again, and he's an outstanding guest. So I'm very, very happy to be on it all. Twice is kind of like a privilege.
Hey, if things keep going the way they are with the CBA negotiations, you might catch him by June.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens at Twin Lakes and like how much we can see. It might be like explosive. We expect it to be good, and we expect our teams to perform well against affiliates. So I'll be there.
Well, Eric, we really appreciate you coming on. We will be back next week. BaltimoreSportsAndLife.com. Check us out there. In the meantime, join the message board. Participate in the latest discussion, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at BSL on the Verge. And Eric, before we sign off, tell our listeners where they can find your work and what you have coming up.
Right now, I'm kind of focused on the podcast. That's the Florida Prospect Report. I do it with my friend named Bailey. We're going through all the minor league systems. We talk about how different baseball is in Florida and how we have access to amateur and the minors and different parts of the pros. So the podcast it's been a lot of fun, and we have a lot of great things planned for this season. So Utah Street Report and the podcast and writing for Overtime Heroics have been pretty much my focus recently. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome, and thank you for coming on. We'll be back next week with a new episode. For Bob and Nick, this is Zach, and you've been listening to On the Verge.